Oh, it's bloody hot in this kitchen. Nice traditional. Alas. Oh. Oh, Jesus. Wash your hands because you've just snotted all over them. I'm not drunk, honest. Oh, I think I'm gonna go again. So just whack it in there. Tuck a for however long. You another swamp rat. Last video I made this traditional ragu alla Bolognese. Just like none I used to make. 90% traditional, there's some stuff in there that might not be. Obviously that goes well with pasta, but what you can also use that for is to make a lasagna, which is I am going to use the leftovers to make. And we're going to make a bechamel sauce to go with it, a cheesy bechamel sauce to go with it. We've got the meat sauce, we just need the bechamel white sauce. I'm not going to bother making my own lasagna sheets because I can't be asked. Trick though is these oven ready ones aren't actually 100% oven ready. They sort of are. I'll explain as we go. So this is a tip that I picked up. I'm fairly certain I've known it for ages. But J. Kenji Lopez Alt, who recently also put a video up of making lasagna, reminded me of this trick. So props to him, I guess. Soak them. Lukewarm water. That's mostly cold water, but you know, can't all be perfect. Tell you for why. Obviously, pasta, as it cooks, much like rice, although not to the same degree, absorbs water. Except we're not going to be cooking these. They're going to be cooking these in a sauce. So we don't want it to absorb all the water out of our sauce and end up with a dry lasagna. So yeah, so get the water all around them. So what we do is, while we're getting everything else ready, soak these sheets in a bit of water, lukewarm water. Not to cook them, but just so that they've got a bit more water. They're a bit more hydrated, so they don't suck a load of moisture out of our sauces. Ignore the cast iron pan. In the immortal words of Mr. Brown, that's another show. Right, so the ragu, obviously is already made. If you haven't already made it, I'll put a link up wherever the links go these days to the video for this. If you haven't just freshly made this like I haven't and you've fridged it up, chances are it's quite a fatty sauce. There's no other way of putting it. That fat's all gonna solidify and set up. You need it in a consistency that you can spoon. So just whack it in there. Tuck a for however long until you haven't got to properly reheat it because you ain't gonna be eating it like this. It's still gonna go in the oven. And whilst I remember it, whack the oven. Stick your hot box on 180 because you do everything at 180. Right, bechamel. Saucepan, not that one, that one. Low heat, relatively low heat. 25 grams of le butter, unsalted butter. General rule of thumb, always cook with unsalted butter. Put salted butter on your toast and your bagels and your crumpets and your whatevers, because it tastes good, but you want to control the level of salt in what you're cooking, so always cook with unsalted butter. Chop this all up into little bits to make this a little bit quicker, but I'm in no rush, so yeah, melt your butter in the pan. Don't let it start to fizz, don't let it brown. You just want melted butter at the end of the day. So a bechamel sauce, if you don't know, is just the white sauce in a lasagna, and it's used in lots of other stuff. Traditionally, this isn't a traditional lasagna, it's traditional ragu alla Bolognese, but it's not a traditional lasagna by any means. I don't think we'd have cheese in it. But I'm gonna make a cheesy one. This sauce is also mac and cheese sauce for nachos. A nice, easy recipe to know. So that's 25 grams of butter, 25 grams of flour. So equal flour to butter. And then the way I remember it is that's 25 grams and that's 25 grams, so that's 50 grams. So you want 100 times more milk. So 500 ml of milk. Whole milk. If you want to be a bit healthy and you don't want to use whole milk, if you want to use skimmed or semi-skimmed, you need to up the flour. whisking your flour. You don't want any lumps. You're going to end up with like a paste. Make sure that flour is incorporated. Keep it moving because you don't want anything to burn. That's why we're on a really low heat. But just, there you go. Just let that cook out a little bit because you don't want the flavour of raw flour in anything because it's not nice. This is a roux, but this is a French roux. And I can go back to if we go back to the jambalaya video, I'm not going to go back to it, but put a link to it. In that video, we made a Cajun roux, which is oil and flour, and we essentially fry the flour. In this, it's butter and flour because we're never going to cook it, brown it. It's never going to get browned. It's just going to stay at this blonde colour. Cook that for a couple of minutes just to get rid of that raw flour taste. Yeah, if you want to make it healthier and you're going to use semi-skimmed or skimmed milk, you might want to up your flour content. Just counteract that the milk's going to be thinner, so it's going to be less thick. But this isn't, there are no hard and fast rules on this. There's no, got to be this much, got to be that much. Not baking. Kind of why I don't like Gordon Ramsay. I like Gordon Ramsay, but he gets on my nerves when he's cooking, because everything has to be this way, and that's the way that's done, and that's done this way, and And no, as long as it comes out all right and it tastes good, that's the arbiter final of all of this, really. Right, so cook that for a couple of minutes. We've got like a almost mashed potato-y paste consistency. We're now going to start whisking in the milk. This is cold, come out of the fridge. A lot of recipes, if you want to, have another saucepan of that warm, and you put onion studded with cloves in it to infuse it, and bay leaves and stuff like that to make the milk infused with flavours, and then you mix them together and it needs less cooking. This is cold milk because we're going to simmer it afterwards because we're going to sort out the cheese. We'll get to there. But slowly, cheeky monkey with the milk. You want all the milk to be incorporated before you add another splash. Otherwise, you will get lumps. So yeah, to begin with, just add it in splashes. Wait for all that milk to be incorporated. Let your saucepan be really annoying, keep turning around with you, on you. See, we're starting to get a little bit lumpy here, so I need to whisk the bejesus out of it. As you go and get more and more milk in there, you can start to add more and more milk in there quicker. Just at the beginning when you really need to start slowly, otherwise you'll end up with lumps, which you don't want. I quite like lumpy gravy, I quite like lumpy mashed potatoes. Lumpy sauces are not great because the lump is going to be a lump of flour. And as much as I love stuff made with flour, I don't like eating flour all that much. And going the whole lot of it now because all that flour is properly diluted. Diluted's not the right word, but you know what I mean, hopefully. Right, this isn't going to look particularly thick right now because flour, kind of like cornstarch, doesn't really start thickening stuff until it comes up to like a gentle simmer or a boil even. So now what we're going to do, give it a good whisk, make sure everything's definitely incorporated. Bit of a lump there, so give that another go around. Make sure there's nothing in any of the corners. Right. Up the heat a bit. Chuck in a couple of bay leaves. You know, I was saying earlier about no rules. I kind of think this is non-negotiable. Nutmeg. Fresh nutmeg, grated in. Quite potent stuff though, so you only want about a quarter of a teaspoon. If you're using not freshly grated stuff, maybe you want to go a bit more because it's not as potent. Let that come up to boil, like a gentle, heavy simmer, gentle boil. Give these all a little bit of a move around, make sure they're not all got to get into the water. Give it a little bit of a stir every now and again, just make sure nothing's getting scorched. Burnt milk is not good. Oh! Now I was saying about using unsalted butter, so we can control the level of salt ourselves. Pinch of salt. Crack of black pepper. Not too much. Nice and finely ground. Incorporate. Get your bay leaf down off the side of the pan as well, because it's not doing any favours up there. Right, so now I'm going to let that simmer for 20 minutes or so, just to let that the flour cook. We've simmered our white sauce, bechamel, for about 20 minutes. Whack the heat proper low now, because we're going to melt the cheese in it. There's enough heat in there to melt this cheese. So we're going to leave the heat on for a little bit now, just while I put the cheese in there. Don't let this come back up to the boil or a simmer after the cheese is melted in there, because it will turn into this big stringy mess. I'm about to trigger a load of people because I'm using cheddar cheese, because in my opinion cheddar cheese is the best cheese. It's definitely the most, not universal, the best utilitarian cheese, the best all-round cheese. It's a great melter, it's got great flavour, it just ticks every box you want in a cheese. You can use any cheese you want. Gruyere is a great melter, works great in this. This with Gruyere on potatoes, sliced potatoes, that's potato dauphinoise. I'm using cheddar because, to be honest, cheddar's what I've got. Everyone's got cheddar in the fridge, in England at least, probably in America. That's roughly 80 grams. Go nuts, you don't want too much, but you want to know that it's there. So whack in your cheese. Should have taken that bay leaf out first. Learn from your mistakes. Well, you learn from my mistakes. Take the bay leaves out before you put the cheese in. Turn the heat off now because we don't need any heat. There's enough heat in there. Right. There's a spoon, spoon. Find our bay leaves. 1, 2. So now we have got all of our constituents. That's the word, isn't it? That's the real word. Constituents. Constituent parts. We've got all our constituent parts to make a banging lasagna. So, drain off our. Well, first of all, get it out of the way because we're going to sneeze. Right. Take 2. Right, we're going to drain our nudes, and they'll be sticky and a bit more pliable, than they definitely won't be as brittle as they would normally have been, originally have been. Grab something and whack them on. You see about me a bit of pasta starch on the bottom of the tray. You don't need to worry about it too much, but if you just give it a little wipe out, that's cool. Casserole dish, baking tray, ding. Lasagna, first of all, on the bottom, lube layer of meat, not particularly thick, just want a bit of sauce and meat on the bottom there. Just a thin, a mono layer, if you will, a mono layer. Alright, now we're going to go in with our now exceedingly sticky pizza lasagna. So you haven't got to worry about going fully end to end. A little bit of overlap's okay as well. A bit of tessellation to make them fit. Better that than going and trimming and cutting and doing all that sort of stuff. Right, now the way I do it is go with layer of meat. Again, not massively thick. Kind of like lasagnas are similar to pizzas in that it's very easy, kind of like burgers as well. Your instincts are to whack a load of meat and a load of sauce and a load of stuff in there because you think, oh, the more the merrier. But it's actually very easy to overload. Now, layer of cheese sauce. another layer of sheets of lasagna. And rinse and repeat. So, meat. I went a bit heavier with that layer of meat only because I had meat to use up. And another layer of cheese sauce. Right. And last layer, 3 layers of lasagna. Top layer, just cheese sauce. What we are going to do, whack a metric F ton of grated cheese on top of it, because we love grated cheese. So I don't know how much cheese I've put on top of this. I think it's best if we don't know. What I would say is, if you're making this at home, go with your heart. And I'm going to go with my heart, because you know what I'm going to do as well? Oh, people are going to go nuts at me for this. Oh. I love a bit of red Leicester. It's a great melter. It's got a nice nutty flavour to it. Not too strong, but I think the colour is going to look amazing. So I'm going to whack, oh, almost struck me with grater. I'm going to whack a load of red Leicester on there as well. Not as much cheddar as I did of cheddar, but that already looks beautiful to me, and it's not even baked yet. So now our oven that's been preheating, we're going to whack that in there. Oh, I'm going to have to move that tray. Technical difficulties, bear with me. Right, take 2. Don't know why I closed the oven. Whack that in your oven at 180. Close her up for 30 to 40 minutes. Careful. Right. See, what you want is for the cheese to have gratinated and puffed, and the pasta to have puffed up, and cheese and it be a bit crispy around the edges. Call your jets, comrade. Hold your horses, because that is hot AF right now. That, much like a pizza, much like shepherd's pie, a lot of other things, any cake, baked goods really, you need to let that sit up. You need to give that time, because if you put that in your mouth right now, you'd be a bloody idiot, but you would burn yourself to hell and back. You'd scorch your mouth. It will just taste better and be easier to serve after it's cooled down just that little bit, where it sort of like solidifies into a pasta meat cake, essentially. So yeah, leave it for a bit, and then we'll come back and cut it and serve it. 15-20 minutes later, you can see it's not bubbling like a magma deposit anymore. I haven't forgotten the oven. I'm something else in there now. Get yourself a spatula, fish slice. This is for a grill top. It's got a sharp edge. If your spatula hasn't got a sharp edge, use a knife. Don't use one of your really good knives, because you'll take the edge off on it on the Pyrex or metal or whatever you're baking it in. I would say this would serve about 6 people. And find a piece that you think looks best. I want that bit. Boomtown. Look, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Crispy cheese, gooey cheese, meat. What isn't there to love? It's beautiful. Utterly, utterly beautiful. Right, so yeah, with a bit of luck, you cook too much ragu from the other video, link in the description, or in the corner, wherever, and you've got the leftovers, and you can make yourself a lasagna, because that's bloody gorgeous, trust me. Yeah, you know the deal. Subscribe, like, Follow me on Instagram, all the links and stuff in the description. I'm gonna go have some lasagna. See you later.